Hello, and welcome back to the Accedo Playback Podcast, the podcast discussing industry news, trends, and tech advancements in the OTT and streaming industry. I'm your host, Neil Van Zyl. Today, we'll be talking about growing and operating a new or smaller OTT service. The OTT industry is predicted to continue growing, but much of the growth is going to come from startups and niche content offerings. Navigating the complex and fragmented landscape that is OTT can be extremely complicated. So today we'll be chatting with a good friend and someone who's navigated these complexities several times. David Guinan, currently GM at Major League Table Tennis. David, thanks for joining.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Also with us today is David MacPhie, Director of Sales at Accedo One, Accedo's OTT SaaS solution. David M., good to hear from you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Let's jump right into it. David, let's say you want to start an OTT service. What are the first things you start thinking about and making decisions for?
Need. I mean, it's the most number one thing. Is there an actual market reason for this thing to exist? And what I've seen, I've been guilty of, what I've seen a lot of people, the mistakes people have made by falling victim to magical thinking, assuming that just because they love something so much or they're way into a niche sport, or they have invented a new one, that their enthusiasm clouds their judgment about the actual total addressable market. And you see that all the time. I mean, this industry is just littered with the carcasses of people that never made it to 30,000 subscribers, which in my opinion is kind of the indicator of really break even and success.
David M., what do you generally advise newer clients or newer prospects that come in and chat to you about what they should focus on?
Well, I think exactly what kind of David said is, making sure that you have a market. But one thing, by the time they're talking to us, customers obviously kind of in the mindset of a technology decision, right? Because we obviously provide that end of the workflow. But I always say, like, hey, there's so much else that has to go into this. And I'm sure we'll touch on this later. But, if you build it, they will come does not apply to an OTT service. You need to have a solid marketing plan in place. And that has to be multifaceted. And it's going to be costly. And I always remind them, hey, as you're doing and building out your business case, don't lose sight of the costs beyond technology and beyond content.
My colleague, John Cullen, reminded me of I'm going to butcher the quote, but it was a Seinfeld quote where people spend all of this time, writing, directing, art direction, shooting, editing, and they put it on a platform for free. And people just go, I don't like it. So you really, it behooves everyone to do as much research as possible to figure if there's an audience that likes it. There are many indicators of that. YouTube presence, creator community. Just rolling up your sleeves and doing research. Getting MRI data, also talking to people. I feel like even though it is considered anecdotal, really doing your own kind of ethnographies and learning what makes content unique to a certain group of people is incredibly important. Like when I started at Cowboy Channel, I'm from Philadelphia. I didn't know the first thing about rodeo, but first thing I did was go to a lot of them and talk to a lot of people. And at that point, I really understood in coordination with a lot of research, especially MRI data, I was able to pretty accurately guesstimate what my audience was and what my maximum audience was. And we were pretty darn close.
It's an interesting point that you mentioned, just how important research is and how oftentimes that can actually go a little bit under the radar. When it comes to making just general decisions for a startup or nascent video services, is there a key way they should go about it when they're thinking about their OTT technology strategy? Are there like certain capabilities or considerations like the in-house versus maybe doing the vendor approach for technology or other things that should take priority?
Well, I think we're making a lot of assumptions with that question. Who can we come up with a hypothetical case study? Because if it's some, like if it's a film festival, I mean, are we talking about sports content? I mean, each type of content dictates its own solution. So I do need to push back because I can't give an answer based on without certain variables addressed.
Sure. Well, why don't we go with just kind of like a general entertainment SVOD service approach?
I mean, like for me, all right, fine. But again, that needs to be further qualified. So say I have 1,000 action movies. Does an SVOD make sense for me? Or does it make more sense to distribute it over a variety of fast channels? Or work out international licensing deals? I personally think the only reason you need live is for either sports or news. Other than that, you have no real reason to either deal with a linear broadcast, linear stream, but you have a catalog. So do you want to focus on news or sports? Because it feels like it's more appropriate for the topic of this conversation.
No, it's good to always clarify. I think sports is always kind of a bit more top of mind right now in OTT. It's obviously become a bigger kind of player in the field.
Well, it's the only thing that's good live. I mean, really think about it. Like a Seinfeld episode on a fast channel, you have the VOD entire catalog, like on Netflix. There's no real reason for the previous models of, showing up at 8:30 to watch Friends, even though that's exactly what fast channels are imitating, and then putting traditional commercials spots in them. I mean, to me, it's almost ludicrous. I mean, yeah, it's a interim medium to get people into streaming, sure, but I mean, it reminds me of the early days of satellite, where you have 10,000 channels, and the modernity of a linear timeline when it's not applicable at all at this moment. However, news and sports, those are the two things that you genuinely need live for. And if you're considering an SVOD channel with either, I mean, there are three main components. I mean, your front end apps, which Accedo does quite well. Your entitlement system, which companies like Kling do quite well, which is takes your money and lets all of the different platforms know that you have access. And then lastly, your CDN or your OVP, which we use JW and they do it quite well. I mean, those are the three main components. But then also some sort of analytic tying them all together. And lastly, really, really, really good marketers. I mean, to me, that's the recipe. But market need, obviously, which we talked about, number one.
Well, coming back, Neil, to your original question, like what is the initial advice? And I think we've talked about obviously identifying the need, yes, but then also marrying the business model, right? What is the right business model to make your product successful? Is it SVOD? Is it AVOD? Look, to be honest, YouTube's a pretty compelling place for discovery right now, right? And I consume a lot of content there. And the fast world can be great, but it's very cluttered.
Can it be great?
Well, that's to be fair. I've come across a few interesting cases recently where, and what's interesting, David, is it ties to sports and live. But
I will also say that there are certain use cases for putting some content on a fast channel to expose new audiences to an SVOD product.
Exactly.
But
precisely a marketing approach.
Yeah, precisely. I think an owned and operated free front porch fast channel in front of your SVOD channel makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. But to quote my former colleague, Cowboy David Mitchell, he will actually go on like Pluto. He's a big Trekkie. And when a Star Trek The Next Generation episode comes on with commercials and he likes that, he'll go to Paramount Plus and watch it without commercials. So he's actually using FAST for discovery and then leaving the actual platform. I mean, if that's not telling, I don't know what is. Mm-hmm. But let's get back to SVOD.
David M., anything else that you wanted to add there?
Well, I mean, I want to talk about YouTube for a second because it's such a prescient and important point. And it comes to not just the needs of the viewer, but the needs of whatever the entity is. One of the things I've learned dealing with NGBs, actually, it was the same. John, you get a double shout out at World Taekwondo. That the Olympic committees, for example, measure social reach, social engagement, YouTube views as part of their plan, and for giving people venue selections, premiere dates, etc. That's factored in. So YouTube's strategy when it comes to certain tier 2, tier 3 sports that are really get their shine during the Olympics, it might not make sense. But the point is, I mean, it really does, in my opinion, come back to market need, and really focusing on what problem am I solving for what group of people. I mean, ultimately, what you're doing is you're connecting a group of people with something they want, and you have to figure out how much do they want it, how much is the convenience factor of putting it all in one place, and creating, lastly, sadly, the best experience for them. The first two are more critical. I mean, we learned in rodeo that sending an encoder out and taking a jumbotron feed of a second tier rodeo, people were ecstatic because they had no way of accessing it before, even though it was not the greatest of streaming experiences. I mean, it's tantamount to seeing your kids high school baseball or football game. I mean, it's something you want to see, and quality becomes secondary rather than just access.
Let's take a step back again there. We were talking about how important marketing and branding can be. If you're starting out, how should you start to effectively tackle building a brand and marketing it to the target audience? All right, you said market research is important, and of course,
this one I can answer well, and I learned I learned through mistake and more accident. We didn't at Cowboy Channel. We didn't market at all, so I didn't have a marketing budget for the first couple of years. What I did have were two straight out of college sports journalists. Eventually became three: Mike Snow, Brett Nierengarten, Madison Smith. And what we did, even before we had rights to rodeo, is we at first aggregated news and then created our own and gave people a real reason to go to our Facebook page, our Instagram page, our website, our mobile app, just for the convenience factor. Like if you wanted to learn anything about rodeo, all you had to do is pick up your phone or type in a few things into a browser. And it also forces your team to understand the intricacies of that sport. I mean, that's what we're doing with Major League Table Tennis. It forces you to have a second by second understanding of what's going on in that sports ecosystem, and through that be able to provide content that resonates, and also be able to take a piece of content kind of as an object and port it to where the eyeballs are. So, I mean, it can be an article, but that article can then go to Facebook. It can be a clip that can go to Facebook, Insta, TikTok. It's modifiable. And then that becomes a tremendous source of data for creating of lookalike audiences. So when you start bringing things like performance marketing into the mix, you already have a data set. And quite frankly, an audience that is consuming your media before you even have rights. I mean, that's my advice. I mean, it could be wrong in 3 months. It could be wrong in a year, but it did work twice. So when you're bringing in performance marketers, and I mean, I've gone through, I think, 4 different individuals and teams until I found a company that I approached. They didn't approach me. Like a lot of people will try to sell you on a blended CAC, and avoid that. I mean, a blended CAC, the blend is what you're already bringing to the table. I mean, that is your organic traffic that's coming. Those are your efforts on social media. That's the brand that you've built. When you're bringing in like an agency or a performance marketer, it is so important that everything be attributable to their efforts, so you can actually calculate the dollar. and to the dollar of what the ROAS is. And I mean, like again, I brought in a group that were incredible, that never even thought about talking about blended CAC. I'll give a shout out to Alexander Nix at Media Players. What they did successfully is you're basically running, I mean, just a giant list of different keyword combinations, and you need somebody on pretty much a 24/7 basis fine-tuning what your either your assets or your search terms are to give you the result. I mean, look for a marketer that will actually tell you to spend less money. I mean, it really functions like electricity to a certain degree. Like brand reach, I guess, would be your watts that affects the flow of people searching for your content, which would be the amps. And you really have those two levers to play with.
Interesting point. Obviously, talking about finding different ways to cut costs and also like find the right partners for that. I don't know if you ever read, there was Uber. They at one point they were spending a couple $100,000 on Facebook advertisements, and they cut that full spend, and they saw no decrease in usage, and so they ended up obviously saving a ton of money that way. It's important to obviously try and pull all the levers you can.
But also to know when you're wrong. And I'm glad you brought up that example. Like, I made the assumption that video ads were the end all be all because you could, write a little narrative. And, my background is TV and film, and, I worked in promos for a long time. But no, the video ads perform, in my experience, way, way, way worse than a still. And it becomes kind of obvious when you really think about it. A still has all of the information you need. And when most videos aren't even watched for 3 seconds, go still. And they're also cheaper. So it was an assumption that I just changed my mind on based on, data. And my partner's telling me this.
I like that point there. And I think I'll get some opinions from both of you on this next one here. But you talked about how you just change your mind after getting the right data and the right information. What have you found to be the most useful or, I guess, critical analytics data points, and how have you used them outside of even just like ad performance?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. It's an important, very important question. I find with analytics, there's a tendency to boil the ocean, to want everything. And it really is about finding the 5 or 6 data points that actually matter. And last year, we were in the middle of the summer run at Cowboy Channel, and I think our CAC was $35. Now, we offered a monthly and an annual. Now, $35 for a $9.99 monthly does not make sense at all. I mean, you're losing money. So we ran an analysis and found out that after 3 months, 75% of those monthlies were upgrading to an annual. And I would spend that money all day long. So that became my basically my war in baseball. It means people took a chance, they tried the content out for 3 months, and then they upgraded. That one stat gave me more info than demographics, where they were coming from. I mean, it really shows how current your content is, and it was a successful. It was almost like an anti-churn number. It was I don't know what the term would be. I'm not a marketer, but like I guess a successful upgrade path. But I mean that was eye-opening because I was about to shut it down.
David, I mean, you know it better than me, but knowing a little bit about your content and the timing, I think you are got to give yourself more credit about the timing of your marketing as well. Because you mentioned the summertime, and you have a very compelling event in December.
Yeah, but that's pricing more than timing,
right?
I mean, that's pricing, and in table tennis, we're going to be doing the same thing. I mean, basically experimenting with timing, with marketing, but the way I'm approaching that is I'm hiring the same group, and we're doing very, 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 very little spend at first. Because we need to collect data. I mean, we're starting in a much different position. Actually, Cowboy was started from zero as well. But we are, it's a new service starting with zero, without the support of the editorial that we had at Cowboy or Linear Network. So it's a different beast that requires its own tweaking.
But to put a bow on that, I mean, you're integrating your, thinking about your marketing in the context of your content, and any compelling events, I think, goes a long way as well. And having that editorial kind of calendar and understanding, and working closely with your marketing team to build up to that and push around that. I mean, it seems like table stakes stuff, but we can't underestimate also, from a marketing point of view, making sure that the left hand and the right hand are syncing up around the available content that's going to be promoted, right? That's going to be made available, and compelling events that you can tie to and leading up to that. I mean, it seems like an obvious thing, but I suspect sometimes, especially in smaller nascent organizations where there's so many things to be worrying about, it may be overlooked sometimes about making sure that your marketing spend is complementing any compelling releases or compelling events that you may be promoting on your SVOD service.
No, agreed. And I mean, you bring up an important issue of also seasonality.
Mm-hmm.
Certain sports have seasons. Certain ones, thankfully, there's table tennis year round, and each event gives us an opportunity to market. But it's a different beast than Cowboy Channel, where ultimately one of the bets we're making is convenience by taking sport that everybody knows, that's ubiquitous, and putting it in one place. To me, that has a convenience factor. But also, I think the challenge is, how do you take something that is traditionally a participatory sport and turn it into a spectator one,
mm-hmm.
which is the opposite of rodeo. But what I learned going to the events is it follows, for me, the three rules of if a sport is good, that tier ones do well, which is it good live? Is it good on your phone? And is it good on your couch? And if the answer is yes, you have a compelling reason, and there's an audience. There's a very strong, compelling reason to set up a streaming service. And I'll add a fourth one: baseball. It's good on your radio. That's my favorite way to consume it. But yeah, it's how do you take a participatory sport, turn it into a spectator one? Make sure, and if one of those areas is sort of lacking, fix it. In bowling, I imagine, would have the same exact issue.
A lot of what we've been talking about here has been more for, I guess, the launch phase and kind of as you're starting to collect data. David M., let's say you have the apps and technology in place. What are the things you like to advise clients or prospects that you need to start focusing on after launch?
Well, I mean, this is the of course the marketing question, right? I think, very quickly, if someone's new to the space and they start to establish agreements with the different distribution points, specifically the OEM app stores, they realize, there's a lot of marketing opportunity there. They will encourage you to buy promotion in their environment, and those things really do work. So, understanding and taking advantage of those opportunities. I think, again, the content, what's the word I'm looking for? The kind of editorial calendar is critical. Making sure that they're, having regular reasons to bring people back. I think that may also be something that's underestimated and I'm, look, this is a world that I'm not as familiar with. I'm very familiar with the technology element of it. Like, if we want to stand up a service, we can get that done very quickly. But
you bring up an interesting point, though, with technology. And sorry to interrupt you, but one of the most important things that I've learned is the value of a mobile app. You have a push alert.
Mm-hmm.
I know you get a lot of them, but at the same time, you're not dealing with Zuckerberg. You're not dealing with Google. You're not paying any. It's your audience that you've built, and you can alert somebody when that event or deal or whatever is happening, which is critical. When you were talking about marketing and the role of technology in a platform. Again, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And you can certainly see that in the data, right? Like, you push out something and the spike in usage is real, right? people, especially if they value your content, they'll value the alert. Of course, there's probably a happy medium. You don't want to be pinging people, all the time. I've certainly had some apps that I've, decided to mute for a while. But no, these are the levers that you can pull, right? And there's multiple levers. There's the push notification. There's using these other channels, co-marketing opportunities with even other brands. I mean, I've seen that with I believe it's Criterion, or it's either Criterion Channel or Curiosity Stream, where you go in and you can actually subscribe to their service, but there's complementary services that you can buy as a package as well.
They bundle a bunch of services together, a bunch of different.
Yeah, that's the classic Disney thing right now, right? You can get the triple play there, but
yep.
But that's another element on how you pull levers. And of course, you also did this. Now we're talking about much bolder and bigger opportunities, but it's amazing to think about like how many Netflix and Disney subscriptions are driven by your T-Mobile package or your Verizon package, right? So many of these
didn't exactly work for AT&T. Remember that debacle?
Was that the one with football, or no? That was Verizon.
It was AT&T Wireless's like streaming service. I mean, it was.
Yeah. Well, there I'm thinking that's their own, but I'm even thinking about just BD deals that are being done.
Oh yeah.
Between separate organizations to drive awareness,
but I do want to go back to like if you're thinking about starting this. So say you got the conditions, you got a sport, you got the content, the audience is there, you're ready to build. Also start small. I mean, you might want to experiment with like a web first approach, but at the same time, we're kind of in a golden era right now where you can stand up a CTV with web, with mobile, with CDN. Like, I mean, my God, for 10% of what it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then there's so much tech right now that is doing kind of wonderful things to reduce what I've seen CDN costs. So we signed a deal with JW, and I did it. They're not going to like this, but I did it on the lowest tier possible. And I'm employing this company called Digital Harmonics. So what they do is they take, a 20 MBS stream and basically cut it in half and make it look better. So therefore, 40% of my CDN bill is going to be saved. And on the other side, there's a company called System 73 that puts a peer-to-peer layer on everything but Roku, which will also save me 40%. So employing smart measures early are incredibly important, because then you are really preserving every dime that you can to either put it into content marketing realistically, if the thing fails, you're wasting less money. And that's an important thing to determine. I mean, is it worth it if it's not working? I mean, fail fast, cut and run. But some of these tools out there I found make that either pain less, or as you start to really scale and grow, save you just a ton of money, which is incredible. I mean, I wish these existed 5 years ago. It would have saved me millions.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great point. And it kind of comes back to the technology decisions and the build versus buy question. And look, I'm clearly sitting in a position of bias here where I currently sit, but many, many years ago, I sat on the other side. I was on the product side at a media company and the buyer instead of the seller. But, generally speaking, building internally is, I mean, it's hard. There's so many failure points.
I would never recommend building internally.
Exactly.
I mean, because, like, for example, how much did I enjoy yelling at you when something went wrong? I mean, it was just
all the time. And we're still here talking together.
I know, but it was like to have someone, for a bunch of reasons, accountable that's not in your organization. I mean, provides a shield. I mean, for real. But at the same time, you're juggling so many different things that to have vendors that you like, trust, respect, that also have your back, I mean, is mission critical.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk all the time, and that's testament to this,
Mm-hmm.
because you can only do so much, and you have to delegate, and a strong vendor relationship is in my opinion, best way of doing that. I mean, imagine building internally. I mean, it would be like Lord of the Flies at the Cowboy Channel when I was there. I mean, table tennis. I mean, it would be a nightmare. You need, in my opinion, external teams just so you can function on your core job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even within, like, I think some people may look at it and say, oh, well, okay, I want to build a streaming service. One single vendor should be able to provide that. And yes, many do, but eventually, like,
Oh.
it's naive to think that, a company who's building front end is going to build as robust a, video encoding solution as a specialist in that area can do, right? It's perhaps naive to think that, a company, an individual company, unless of course, you're Disney or Netflix, I mean, all power to them. They've got the resources, but companies like JW and others are investing millions of dollars every year into improving their products.
Well, I mean, let's take a step back. Do you really want to do? How many iterations of Roku, Apple TV, Fire Stick, Android, Samsung, LG, Vizio are out there? And
Yeah.
you really want to be internally dealing with those updates?
Mm-hmm.
My God, no. I mean,
No.
It just like, and also for me, I mean, bespoke is important, but templates are kind of cool when you're starting out. I mean, ultimately, you are giving people content in a way, and there's a template built that works. I mean, use it.
Yeah.
But back to vendors. One really critical thing about having a vendor that like has your back, that you have a real relationship with, is they're also out there on the frontiers looking at new things. And when you have an idea, you have someone to either experiment with or to get feedback from, and kind of an advisor.
Yeah. And I think the 80-20 rule, I always talk about the 80-20 rule, right? I mean, whenever you're looking at product-based solutions, it's never going to maybe fit 100% of your perfect spec, but 80% will be there. And that will correspond to, I think, the demand from the audience. And David, a question for you, for example, is, do you ever feel that there's like an interactive feature or something that's going to be so important to your audience that it's actually going to differentiate you and make you successful? Or is, in my opinion, like the fundamental is the content's got to be good, compelling, and the video quality and the delivery of the video has to work?
Again, when I was a filmmaker, I mean, there's an expression called "you got to kill your darlings," and there's when you're trying to like fit a scene in, and just because you love it so much to make it work, and you realize that you got to leave it, you got to throw it away, because it doesn't work with it. And to me, that's the same thing about certain feature sets. I mean, there are so many feature sets that I want, but I mean, I remember year one at the Cowboy Channel, I thought it would be cool to have NASCAR was doing it, and I got a degree in it to have like an AR barrel racing game. And they actually got me a phone and said, build it if you want. And I realized very, very quickly when I was dealing with customer service that you had an audience that was a woman called crying that she couldn't install the app on her flip phone. Mm-hmm. That the very notion of creating an AR experience for them was not just futile but funny. But to your point, yeah, I mean, what do they actually want? You want to turn it on, you want to watch what you're getting, and you want it to work. Ultimately, everything else is icing, and a lot of time that it's all icing, no cake. I mean, the cake is what is primary. Though there are every now and then certain feature sets that come out that become must-haves. And I think you're going to start seeing a few of them. Like, for example, in live sports, you want a live indicator. Services didn't do that when we first hired them, but eventually did.
No, exactly. And then lastly, I think another thing that's often overlooked potentially is customer service. It's issues are going to pop up. I mean, there are so many points of failure in a user's, an audience member's journey with your service, right? Credit cards can expire. You forget the email address you used to sign up for the service, and you're trying to sign up on a different device than where you bought it.
Their grandson signed them up. There was a typo in the email, and yet the service allowed that to pass through because they wanted the money, which we did. Guilty. And then when they try to reset their password, it goes to an email address that doesn't exist, and they're in a recursive loop of hell. Yeah, customer service, my God, the most important thing there is. I mean, and you know how much I learned that the hard way, man. I mean, my God.
You could do a whole podcast just on customer service, David.
I did a talk on it. I am like truly blessed that I don't have like a full Twitch based on the fact that we launched without a customer service department.
Yeah.
That was
And there are good solutions that are out there, but just know that, either you have to have real bodies, ready to answer emails or perhaps take phone calls, or you need to have provision for that from a service provider, who can provide that.
And AI chatbots, like, they don't go that far. I mean, like, they anger more than help. Even with like GP, I mean, I'm curious to see what GPT can do. I have a feeling a lot, actually, but depending on, again, this all goes back to the specifics of what the audience is. Table tennis, I imagine a GPT chatbot, an FAQ, multilingual, is going to achieve, I'm going to be very conservative, 75% of my issues, because it's a tech savvy audience. And whereas in rodeo, they were a bit more technologically immature. And not only that, they were used to picking up a phone and having a real person, and it was incredibly important. And I think that's important across the just the spectrum. So I take that back. I mean, I think the ability to have a real person actually talk to you and answer is critical for two reasons. One, it shows your belief and integrity behind the product. But number two, it becomes an incredible source for having a foot outside the system and really understanding what people want without having to conduct a focus group. I mean, like my customer service department, I mean, at RMG, I mean, again, they were on the front lines, and I found it was from them before social and anything happened. Even for my own engineers, I would hear from customer service first. They would come to us in our Slack channel and say, like, what's going on? And so we had so much content, we'd be like, oh God, this is down on just Roku. And then they had the ability to say, okay, it's just a specific model of Roku. So we learned about Samsung, the 2021 issue where a certain Samsung app, the Samsung app wasn't backwards compatible. I mean, that was because people bought a new TV thinking it was from 2022, but it was actually from 2021, and the built-in app was not compatible with Samsung's 2022 build. And yeah, that was a customer service that we learned that from them. It's a horrible industry. Why are we all in it? Is it too late for us all to become lawyers or something, like to do good in the world? Like, again, I think you don't want me being a lawyer or a doctor, so let's continue.
I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of problems, but it keeps you busy, doesn't it? And isn't that more fun?
Variables. It's too many damn variables. You have to think. I mean, all of the 4 things we mentioned that are important, 5 with marketing, 6 with customer service, and then the ingest, the live streams, and then you have to factor in where the transmission's coming from, and then it's constantly evolving, and there are no real standards in place.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about it, like, server-side ad inclusion, I mean, and that's where there are really no standards in place. But I mean, it's you're mitigating variables all the time, and something is always going wrong.
Yeah, no, that was the founding principle of Accedo, actually.
Seriously?
20 years ago, our 2 co-founders recognized fragmentation was going to be the big problem. And so they set about, starting a company that would help solve the fragmentation problem. How do you build for all these devices and manage it?
And you've done it successfully. again, that's why you hire a vendor, because those update. I mean, imagine internally, unless you're huge, having to like realize that you didn't do a Roku update and your customer support service department realizes that like the one you have out there is like deprecated, and having to scramble and fix that, because that will happen. I mean, I can't even imagine doing CTV devices without a vendor like you guys. I mean, it would be. I mean, it's like. It would be like fighting with both arms behind your back.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about, I think, what the real meat is here is where you got to focus your spend on. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about just budget. When you're budgeting for your service, there's a lot of moving parts. Like there's operations, marketing, and technology. And David M., I'd like to get your opinion from the technology side. But just, David, how do you kind of often advise to split the budget amongst those items? We talked about some of the commoditization with technology, making that part perhaps a little bit easier on certain components, but where do you think the focus should be for the startup services?
I would apply the 80-20 rule to that. Spend 80 on tech, but good tech, and then 10% on some sort of internal content creation, and then 10% on marketing. But as you grow, those ratios are going to change. Your tech's going to go way down. Your marketing is going to go way up. But for year one, it's spend as little money as possible to get I hate the term minimum viable product, because I mean that would just be a screen with content on it. More than that, I like minimum viable good product, something that people would actually spend money on. But what is the smallest amount you can do with that? And then grow your audience organically, growth hack, and then treat those early adopters just as well as you can. Grandfather them into any upgrade. Utilize their feedback. Utilize them for UX decisions. I mean, you design things in your own mind about how you think people want to consume content, and I've been wrong every single time. I mean, as a general framework, it worked, but then you learn the intricacies and the variables that your unique audience actually wants and how they consume things. So you quickly have to rearrange. Like Cowboy Channel, we had 3 live buttons pretty much. I mean, there were 3 redundant buttons that each did pretty much the same thing, but it completely made sense to that audience. And I have, I'm building, you pick a model that works. I mean, something successful, but be prepared to almost be excited about being wrong, and just truly listen to your audience, and just like have a good relationship, like find 10 of them and develop personal relationships with them, so you have kind of an ever evolving, moving a focus group and brain trust to call from. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much going to become 60% marketing and 40% tech until you hit about 30,000 subscribers, and then you have a new threshold of pain. When you have 100,000 subscribers, there's an entire new level of pain. Each tier of success creates its own new conundrums, which was something I did not expect. I just thought you were off to the races. No. I mean, like, learn about VPPA lawsuits. That's a fun one that happens when you get to 100,000 subs. I mean, my God. And I don't even know what happens when you get to like 250, because I haven't done 250 because I haven't done that yet. But I'm sure there's a lot of things that just suck. You're never bored. It's the one good thing. I'm never bored. Stressed, but never bored.
That's why you stay in the industry, right?
I guess.
David M., what about from your side, on the technology side? Do you have advice on recommended splits?
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually was a bit surprised, David, at your split. I thought marketing would have been a little higher. I mean, I know it was first year, and I'll be curious also to know, like, how, maybe before I answer that, Neil, a question for David is, when you look at year one of Major League Table Tennis, I presume just based on what you said, is like your focus is on understanding how the audience is going to consume the content.
Actually, you're right. I mean, I actually just did the math in my head and I completely lied to you. It's actually about like 60-40 marketing for year one.
Yeah.
60-40 tech, 40% marketing. But the reason I said it the other way is for the first couple of months, it's going to be an incredibly small amount until you figure out the right formula. So thank you for pointing that out, because I was thinking really, because I'm in the midst of build right now. The midst of build, man, that sounded pompous. We're in the middle of building the damn thing right now, so I'm just thinking 1-2 months ahead. But yeah, it is. Yeah, I would say 60-40 tech to marketing, and I'm including my content journalist hires as well into that. Actually,
right. Well, and then Neil, I was going to kind of touch on, just from a budgeting point of view, I think it's important to realize that success brings cost, right? So, we had a customer some time ago who, this is going back many, many years, probably 8-9 years, built a service, was one of the first services delivering 4K, and did not have, it was a free service. They had a ton of consumption because everyone wanted to try it, but they did not have the ads to back it up. And so quickly, it spiraled out of control, right? And so to bring it back, you need to really consider, okay, what is my business model? If I'm launching SVOD, great, but you need to consider that that's a fixed revenue stream based on number of subs, but a variable demand for cost, right? Or demand will be variable with respect to cost. Cost will be variable with respect to demand. Sorry. And
it's cool. I'm impressed by all this. A new side of you that I'm seeing.
Yeah, there you go. So that's key. And then also the other thing to consider is the ad market right now. And actually it was Mr. Rifkin from JW. I saw him on a panel not too long ago. Great guy. And he said, but the CTV ad market is still, let's just say, under optimized, right? Like, I think the stat he said was that the distribution of streaming between traditional broadcast, linear broadcast that you get from your cable service, and digital streaming is about 50-50 right now. But the ad dollars are still predominantly in traditional broadcast. So and that's why when you're watching, streaming on your, even the ESPN app sometimes, which you'd think would be a juggernaut of ads, right? You'll still get like commercial in progress. And so, yeah, like I think people need to be very realistic, and the clients I've been most impressed with are the ones who are very realistic about that. They're realistic about the, revenue sources, and they're realistic about the marketing spend. The technology spend is actually relatively easy to predict, right?
I totally agree with that. And, Rifkin's been right about a lot. What is the CPM right now? It's it's like $8, and then you're giving pretty much half of that away to stitching costs in the platform. So it's nothing. It's if anything, it's supplementary income, but there is no way to survive on it unless you are the owner of a very large fast channel, in my opinion. But yeah, God, $8. And that's if you're lucky.
Of course, if you are very niche services, then you can charge the 20s and 30s. But for most folks out there, it's not going to be that. And I think there's you got to be mindful, and then you need to consider technology decisions that allow you to do flexibility. Right. This is the one thing I always tell people is as much try to engage with vendors and partners who can offer you flexibility. So that could mean like hybrid monetization solutions, right? So the ability to offer both subscription and ads in the same service.
Or also the ability to go from a templated service to a bespoke service with the same vendor. That's critical. Where you hit a certain point where you say you're at 500,000 subs, where all of a sudden this templated model doesn't work because you have too many people complaining. Or your audience is so large that you need to explore some of the individual TV apps like LG, Vizio, and all of that, which you didn't consider before.
Yeah. And building on that, you reach a point, depending on the nature of your service, where you may want to look at the different platforms differently with respect to how you're presenting yourself on those platforms. Now, what I mean by that is there are, for the TV platforms, those are pretty much all video consumption. On your Roku, you're sitting back. We call them 10-foot devices because you're 10 foot away. But, mobile and web can be much more of a utility-based. They may be as much utilities for your users as they are video consumption. And David, RFD TV, the other brand you focused on, was a great example of that, right? We got to work with you on the TV devices, but you had your in-house team developing web, iOS, and Android because you had a whole range of other content there, like commodity prices and articles and all that sort of stuff.
But that goes back to the content marketing aspect of it. We're doing the same thing with Major League Table Tennis. Like we just hired a sports content journalist, digital content manager, to create digital content to feed our mobile app. So I completely agree with you about sort of the stratification and the utility of different devices. But ultimately, it's the appropriateness of what is a device for, and what are you bringing to it, and does it have value? Like even if you're social media, I've seen people. I mean, if you call anyone that I've ever worked with closely on content, and I say, what's rule number one? And it's don't tease on social media. They will answer that. Where people would put a promo saying, watch this on Tuesday. And it would anger me to no extent because you're literally asking somebody on a phone to look at a piece of content and then make a mental reminder to watch something on a different device in the future. It makes zero sense whatsoever. But each device is its own unique thing. So if you just create content that is has a there, even if it's free, to me that is one of the number one step with growing an audience. Give them something. Be generous. If you're asking them to pay for something, make it worth it. If they're upset with something, deal with it. Listen to them. Apologize. Build it. Fix it. And that's constant. That never, ever, ever changes. Sort of like running a restaurant, I imagine, though I've never, ever done that. Worked at a pizza shop. Best job I've ever had.
David Guinan, David MacPhie, thank you so much for joining. This was a really interesting conversation. We really appreciate your time. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that either of you would like to say just as a final thank you or anything else that you'd like to promote?
Major League Table Tennis, our season 3 is launching September 5th. I'm incredibly excited to see it. It's a cool sport, man. I had no idea. Live, my God, it's good.
David M?
Well, just, thanks, David Guinan, for your time, and for anyone out there who's listening. And, we reach out. We love to, even if it's about hypotheticals or just about, kind of riffing on what's going on in the industry. We love talking about it. And give us a shout and drop us a note on LinkedIn. We'd love to chat.
Did I not just randomly call you yesterday and during your vacation? I think I already do that.
Always, and I generally take your call.
I feel like you should almost say, can you stop reaching out?
Yeah.
Guys, thanks again. Chat soon. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Neil.
That's all for this episode. Thanks again for listening. If you have any questions and you'd like to reach out, feel free to send us an email at playback.podcast@accedo.tv or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Thanks. We'll see you next time.